July 22nd, 2026, Donbas. Russian forces launch one of the largest mechanized offensives in months along this stretch of the front. A Forbes defense analyst called it a forced experiment by Russian command. What exactly pushed Russian generals to send tanks into the kill zone without protective cage armor, under a clear sky, with swarms of Ukrainian drones? What did the Russians achieve, or hope to achieve? First, let's look at how it played out and how it ended. So, at dawn, Russian armor moves toward Ukrainian positions from two directions at once. The line of contact is over 30 kilometers away. Leading the advance are no fewer than 9 tanks, along with 6 armored combat vehicles. They're escorted by tank bridge layers and obstacle-clearing vehicles. But here's the interesting part. Closing out the group are 2 MLRSs. Right behind the tanks follows an abnormally large number of buggies, motorcycles, and ATVs. 47 units in total, carrying infantry. From the air, they're escorted by Russian UAVs, tasked with spotting the positions of Ukrainian drone operators and artillery crews. Of course, Ukrainian intelligence catches the movement as soon as it starts. The first FPVs loaded with explosives go up into the sky. Artillery crews are already receiving coordinates. Even the Air Force joins in on breaking this up. Here's what happened over the next 4 hours. First, the Ukrainians take out the bridges using fighter jets, dropping bombs. Second, FPVs literally tear apart the specialized engineering vehicles to keep the Russians from laying a pontoon crossing. But as you can see, that doesn't stop the Russians. Why aren't they afraid of the drones? Why are most of the Russian tanks advancing without the usual cope cages? Here's the thing. To protect against Ukrainian kamikaze drones, Russian command bet everything on the newest active protection systems, Arena M. Here's how it works. The onboard radar continuously scans the space around the tank in a radius of 50 meters. Once it spots a threat, the computer instantly calculates the target's trajectory, and a defensive counter-munition launches to meet it, detonating 1.5 to 2 meters from the armor, destroying the target with a directed fragment burst. We watch Russian tanks take hit after hit. In this assault, that thing just doesn't work. Even Russian analysts are shocked. This case, of course, is pretty unpleasant just from a reputational standpoint. There are too many possible reasons Arena M failed, and not nearly enough answers yet. Once Ukrainian artillery joins, the assault turns into a massacre. But the Russians don't give up. They try to salvage the situation and quickly deploy MLRSs to suppress Ukrainian artillery and hit the drone operators' positions. But these unprotected systems go up in flames from their own rockets. The infantry becomes the next target for Ukrainian operators, but there are enough drones for every single motorcyclist. From there, it's the usual script. The infantry tries to hide among the trees, but the drones find them anyway. The assault is a failure. Russia's Ministry of Defense stays silent. Russian war correspondents are stunned. What just happened? You just watched a battalion-scale battle, the first one of 2026. For comparison, throughout 2025, the Russians only carried out a handful of similar mechanized assaults, and you can watch all of them in our previous videos. The result of this specific battle: 7 tanks destroyed, 6 armored personnel carriers, 2 MLRSs, 3 units of specialized equipment, and 47 units of light vehicles. 123 Russian troops eliminated, 29 wounded. Before we get into what pushed Russian generals to send this much equipment and infantry into the kill zone, and what result they were hoping for, please hit like and subscribe to our channel. Likes, comments, subs, that's what the YouTube algorithm reads as this video is worth watching. Thank you. So, Druzhkivka and Kostiantynivka, one of the hottest spots along the entire front line, because key logistics routes run through here. These 2 towns specifically are what the Russians are trying to take, since capturing them opens the road to the main Ukrainian fortress of the Donbas, Kramatorsk. Throughout 2025 to 2026, Russian forces have used small group tactics, where fighters try to cross the kill zone in pairs or alone. The Russians do show some success infiltrating certain settlements. Houses, basements, and outbuildings let them dig in, since every structure becomes natural cover. The Russians often pass off these lone infiltrations as capturing a settlement. But this tactic delivers limited results. Most of the time, these groups get spotted and wiped out by the Ukrainians before they can even dig in. So real Russian advances usually happen very slowly, literally tens of meters a day. Sometimes the Ukrainians launch counterattacks and take back what was lost. From a military tactics standpoint, this is a dead end. But Putin absolutely will not accept this situation, because a crawling advance of tens of meters a day completely wrecks his strategic plans and deadlines for seizing the Donetsk region. According to Bloomberg, Russia's defense ministry has assured the president it can establish full control of the area by the end of the year, one person said. But to make good on that promise, they'd need to occupy more than 5,300 square kilometers. At the current pace, that's absolutely impossible within the set timeline. That's exactly why the Russians are going back to mechanized assault tactics. But with some tactical changes. What's different? Let's break it down into stages. Stage 1, build-up. The Russians no longer mass big tank fists in one spot, since Ukrainian long-range drones and artillery wipe them out immediately. Equipment gets stockpiled in a scattered way, 2 to 3 units at a time in tree lines, deep ravines or among ruins, 10 to 15 kilometers from the front line. Stage 2, micro-logistics. Nothing new here. Fuel and ammo. Get brought in at night or under cover of electronic warfare, using ordinary civilian off-road vehicles or motorcycles to avoid drawing the attention of Ukrainian aerial reconnaissance. The new approach shows up in the next stage. Stage 3, synchronized movement of scattered columns. But instead of one big column, which is an easy target, the Russians launched smaller armored groups simultaneously from different directions. The goal is to split the attention of Ukrainian artillery and UAV operators. Tanks fitted with the Arena M system were supposed to shoot down Ukrainian FPVs on approach. The rest of the vehicles and infantry were meant to stay under an air umbrella. And that's another innovation. The updated tactic calls for reconnaissance drones like Zala, Orlan or other recon variants to fly, constantly ahead of and above the column, feeding back a real-time picture. Their job is to spot Ukrainian firing positions, ATGMs, artillery, mortar crews. Lancet drones were supposed to strike them, clearing the path for the vehicles. It was at stage 3 that the failure you just watched happened. The armored fist of tanks broke down in the final kilometer. But what was supposed to happen if the breakthrough had succeeded? IFVs and APCs that made it through the minefields and fire control zone were supposed to drop off troops at top speed into the first line of Ukrainian trenches or key tree lines, then pull back to a safe distance. Russian infantry was supposed to dig in fast and turn the breakthrough into a permanent defensive position. Russian operators were supposed to get their strike FPVs into the air quickly to stop the Ukrainians from launching a fast counterattack. Russian drones were supposed to hunt down any Ukrainian armor, pickup trucks carrying ammo, or assault groups moving up to retake positions. These are the measures for isolating the breakthrough area. And after that, strikes on logistics and prep for the next mechanized push. This time the Russians failed, but not only because the Arena M system fell short. So how do the Ukrainians break up these assaults? First, hunting the scouts. Anti-air FPVs take down enemy Zala or Orlan drones by ramming them or detonating in mid-air. These are specially designed high-speed quadcopters, capable of climbing to 3 to 4 kilometers and hitting speeds over 150 to 200 kilometers per hour, catching up to enemy wings. Second, the remote anti-armor mine system drops mines in the path of vehicles already on the move. At the same time, trench-mounted EW near the positions creates blind spots for Russian drones, and signals intelligence pinpoints the frequencies of enemy operators and jams them. Direction finding on remote control signals locates the dugouts housing FPV operators, which then get hit by either drones or artillery. Realistic decoy howitzers and vehicles trick the Russians into wasting Lancets on plywood, exposing their own positions in the process. But the main thing is coordination across every unit. It was thanks to that coordinated teamwork that the Ukrainians managed to beat back this attack. Still, this won't be the Russians' last attempt to break through the defense. Next time, they'll come up with something else. Tell us in the comments, how do you think the next Russian mechanized assault will differ from this one? Do you think Russia will manage to take the Donbas by the end of the year? And in these playlists, you'll find videos on other Russian assaults. In this war, take care of yourself, stay safe and support Ukraine.